Blackwood. That's right. Okay. God. Here we go. Sorry. Hey guys, my name is Grim, and welcome to my build video for Stamina Nightblade Open World PvP in the Blackwood patch. A lot of things have changed from last patch, where Open World PvP didn't allow procs. So this video, I'm going to try and keep it short, but there's a lot to go through, and I don't really want to skimp on anything that could be important. So let's get into it. First, in Blackwood, what's different? Three major things that come to mind. First of all, procs are back on the menu. Proc sets are back. They now scale off of different stats. Each proc set scales off of a different stat, but generally speaking, they're basically the same or better than they were before, because we were given a ton of damage. So people have crazy damage right now, and because of that, the way that the average player has adapted will change the way that everyone else adapts. And I don't know whether you're an average player watching right now or you're a 1vx or whatever, it's going to affect you because everyone's playing differently. Before, everyone was super duper tanky, really tanky. It was kind of annoying to play. It was a grind to kill someone. It took some time. Now people die a lot faster, and there are still tanky people, and there are still super tanks that don't do any damage and have like clearly unkillable specs, and there are some tanks that do crazy damage, and it's kind of annoying. But overall, people feel less tanky, and damage feels a lot higher. This means that instead of having more tanky players, we actually have more gankers, and this might not be true on your server. On PCNA, it's definitely true. In an average fight, I'm seeing, like, in a group of 6, there will be 2 bombers. That's not unusual at all. And I've actually had fights where I'm trying to 1vx, and I get double bombed. I have 2 different people try to do, like, a mage blade bomb on me, and it's kind of annoying. So, with such high damage, it's easier to be a ganker. There's higher success rates for ganking, and that's something that you have to watch out for, especially if you're playing solo. And now the third thing that's changed is actually really important, because as we're trying to be tankier, it's really important to note that health recovery has been gutted, to the point where I'd basically say for good players, health recovery is a dead stat. It's not one worth investing points in to the same degree that it was. And honestly, as far as game balance is concerned, that's a good thing. I've used health recovery in the past. It's basically passive healing. It's really, really strong, and I think it's nerfed. They nerfed it in a really weird way by lowering the amount of health recovery that you get while in PvP. I'm not really sure that was the right way to do it, but either way, it got a well-deserved nerf. I would have just basically cut the recovery for everything in half at base, but I guess in case you need it for PvE or something, whatever. I don't like it when they change things between PvE and PvP without it being like super sensible. It just makes it confusing for new players. Like, for me, it's easy to understand, but for new players, they're like, when I have to explain this to people, it's just annoying. So I don't really like the way they nerfed it, but I'm really glad that they did nerf health recovery. I think that's a good thing for the health of the game. So what does that mean for me and my build? A few things. First of all, I've got a stupid amount of health right now. Maybe even too much, but I currently am running 35k health in open world, which is... it's almost embarrassing. I'm like a PvE tank in terms of health. But, you know, if you're going to survive 2 bombers while you're 1vxing and any number of dots and you're getting zerged down, like, this feels like a good amount. It's also important because I'm a vampire right now. Since health recovery is dead, there's not too many reasons to not go vampire. And so I hang out at vampire stage 3 most of the time. This is going to drop soon, but it reduces your health recovery even further. It increases flame damage taken, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It increases ability cost significantly, but because people are dying so much faster, I don't need the same sustain that I did when killing people was a grind fest. I actually kill people with fewer resources, and that means that the ability cost is somewhat negated by that. And then you get a couple perks for being a vampire. The least useful one is probably, well, it's between speed, sneaking, and undeath. I do think undeath is pretty overrated, but it's helpful. It's not nothing, right? And when you have 35k health, you have a lot more room for undeath to be useful. So when you've got something that scales off of your amount of health missing, it's still based on percentages, but it means if I've got 50% health, you know, I've got like 17k health instead of 10k health. You know what I mean? So that can be pretty significant. Like if you're at half health and you've got 18k, it's obviously a lot better. So I can actually take a hit when I'm at half health, and that makes undeath more useful. I can even take a hit when I'm at a quarter health, and that obviously makes undeath a lot more useful. The more health you have when you're at a lower percentage of health, the better off you're going to be for perks like undeath to make a difference at all. So vampirism and high health pool work together nicely. And then probably my favorite of the vampirism perks is the added weapon damage that you get. That is pretty significant. Strike from the Shadows, 300 is a lot of damage, and it's not a huge difference maker when we have so much damage in general just added to us, but it is significant. And since I have to build tankier and I have such ridiculous health, having really good weapon damage and having it buffed from this is also nice. So I think, especially since we have access to cloak, so we can be in stealth quite frequently, it comes into play often, and it is a big contributing factor. Now, let's get into the build and the actual sets I'm using. The first kind of important one is Gaze of Sithis. Like I said, I'm getting hit a lot. I'm taking a lot of damage, and one thing that I don't do very much as a Nightblade is block. I think I probably block more than I realize, and I think everyone that is a Stamblade blocks more than you realize. Not having any difference when you block Meteor is a little weird, but Meteors don't hurt that badly anyways, and you can still block it to negate the stun. You can still block anything to negate its stun, but the mitigation is reduced to 0. Now, that actually works really well on Nightblade because a lot of the time you're taking damage while you're trying to run as quickly as possible, right? You're trying to get line of sight, roll behind a building, run in a circle, whatever. And when you're running at full speed, you can't really block. You can do a bunny hop and block in the air, and that is something that I used to do every now and then. But in open world, like, you need pretty flat terrain to bunny hop, and in open world there's not that much flat terrain. That's only when you're fighting like in a tower or in a keep. But if you're fighting in a field, you kind of lose that advantage anyways. So Gaze of Sithis is pretty strong here. Mine is still Divines. I don't know why it's still Divines. It just doesn't feel like I need it to be Impen or well-fitted. It'd probably be better off being well-fitted if I'm looking to save stamina. But I just left it Divines. That's how it came. And it's whatever. If you don't have the Gaze of Sithis, because this is a new item, and so you have to have Blackwood to get it, and you don't want to have Blackwood, or you don't want to get Mythics in general, you can just wear a monster set instead. You can see I'm using Gaze of Sithis and Dama House. You could switch this for whatever you wanted, but you could also just wear a 2-piece. I think the best 2-piece, it's going to depend on what you're wearing. If you need more tankiness, like what I get from Sithis, you might just want to wear 2 1-piece max armor sets. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but I don't know. I'd probably wear a 2-piece monster set, and I think Balorg is the best option. Now, as for core sets, the main set that I'm actually using this patch is Morag Tong. I'd heard a lot of good things about Morag Tong from patches past, but I was reveling in the non-proc meta of last patch, and this counts as a proc, so I never tried it out. And I tried it out this patch, and it's really good. I like it a lot. It's easy to use, it's fun to use, it gives you 2 lines of weapon damage, which is nice, and 10% extra damage taken, not more damage done, but your target takes more poison and disease damage is really strong, especially if you're playing in a group. Like, if I'm playing with a stamina DK, we can focus one person down, and the stamina DK, all of their poison dots are also going to benefit from me wearing Morag Tong. So that's something that's important to note, and it also means that it's not limited to your abilities, because it's anything that causes poison or disease damage. Actually, you know what? That might not be true, because now it just, I'm reading it again. It says from poison and disease attacks. So I'd have to retest it to see if that works on like poisons that you put on your weapon. I actually don't know for sure off the top of my head. But either way, I've been playing with it. It's really strong. I like it. So I'm going to offer you 3 variations of my build, and all 3 of them use Morag Tong. And I think you should try it out. It's a lot of fun. So let's start with the tankiest version and work to the highest damage version. The tankiest thing you can do is to wear Morag Tong and Pariah. Pariah is a really strong tanking set, actually, and it gives you 1 line of health, 2 lines of armor, and then it increases your physical and spell resistance by up to 10k based on your missing health. And that can get really, really high. My resistance, when I'm low health, will hit like 49k resistance for both physical and spell. And then on top of that, I've got vampire, right? So it's a ton of mitigation, and you're super duper tanky. So if you're playing in a big group, so your damage doesn't matter that much, and you're just worried about getting bombed, or you're just worried about getting bombed in general, if you're taking a ton of damage and you just feel like you cannot survive at all, and you're willing to sacrifice damage for it, Pariah is a great set. You can use Pariah, Morag Tong, and in that case, what I would do is have like Pariah on the jewelry, chest, and legs, and then you're taking a small damage hit because you're going to wear 3 pieces of heavy. So you're going to have heavy Pariah legs, heavy Pariah chest, and then Gaze of Sithis, and those are all 3 heavy pieces. So you're wearing 3 heavy and 4 medium, which you can actually do now. You used to have to wear 5 pieces in order to get a bonus from your armor type. You do not anymore. So you can wear 3 and 4 and be just fine. But you are going to lose some damage. You're also losing damage because you can't use Vadashran, because you're going to be using either Pariah or Morag Tong weapons, right? So that's one thing you could do, is you could actually run it with 2 heavy if you are willing to use Pariah weapons, which are kind of a pain in the butt to get, but it's an option, right? So if you want to use Pariah, there are a few ways to do it. Pariah, Morag Tong, Dami House, Gaze of Sithis, super duper tanky. Really, really, really tanky. And, not a bad thing. And if you wanted to add more damage to that, again, if you're not using Gaze of Sithis, you could be using Pariah, Morag Tong, and Balorg as your 2-piece monster set, and you'd be very tanky, have a lot of damage for healing, and have a lot of damage when you use your ult. That also gives you some kind of interesting, fun options on the ability end. For example, if you're looking to be tanky, you could put the class Soul Siphon here, the big fat heal, put it on your back bar. Not only will you get more max magicka on your back bar, but you'll also be able to basically have a baby resto ult, and so you'll be even more tanky. And if you're in a group, this can heal the whole group too. So it's a mini resto ult that can heal yourself and allies. It also gives your allies major vitality, increasing their healing received for 4 seconds. So it's really a great group utility skill. And if you're in a group, having Pariah, Balorg, and Soul Siphon can be extremely valuable. As someone who plays solo, the build I prefer has a little more damage, because obviously I have to kill people on my own. And the best way to reduce incoming damage is to kill a person. Then they can't do any damage to you at all. Pretty high IQ, right? So what I do is I use Clever Alchemist on my back bar. So on my front bar, I only have the 2 lines of max health, and when I swap to my back bar, on my front bar I only have 2 lines of max health. When I swap to my back bar, I get the last 2 lines, which is a little extra damage for vigor, I guess. But more importantly, when I drink a potion, I gain 675 weapon and spell damage for 20 seconds. 20 seconds is a really long time to have this much damage, and it's really very, very strong to be able to choose which 20 seconds you have that damage for. And 20 seconds is enough time to use that damage for defense, to get a thick boy vigor off, and then turn around and bonk somebody, or bonk 2 people. 20 seconds is a long time. And in most fights, you're going to be kiting for 40 seconds, trying to create an opportunity, and then you can pop Clever Alchemist and kill a few people and keep fighting. So Clever Alchemist is really strong. Not everyone likes Clever Alchemist, so I'll give you another really high damage option. I really like Clever Alchemist, and it's fun to be using it again. I didn't use it last patch, or actually for a few patches, and I kind of missed it. I didn't think it was that great the last few patches, but it feels really good this patch. especially since now I'm not using a proc that scales off of, well, it used to be the no proc scaled off of damage, so having a proc and a damage increase just felt not good. But now that I can use Clever Alch to do more poison damage and disease damage, and then Morag Tong is going to buff the amount of damage that they take from those things. So it's actually a very nice synergy, and so Morag Tong and Clever Alchemist work really well together while giving me a ton of healing on my Vigor, which is important because I don't have health recovery. So you can kind of see how the thing comes full circle there. Then I also use Perfected Vadashran Maul. This is good as always. It's a little bit less powerful than it used to be. It also obviously doesn't do poison or disease damage, so it's not benefiting from Morag Tong. But here's something it does do. It makes you glow orange. So I'll just, I guess, show you this on this. You're probably aware. Oh, hold on, let me. Oh, has to be stamina abilities. Okay. So wait. Yeah, I got it, right? So you can see I'm all orange right now. And that's because I have Frenzied Momentum up. And what's so cool about this is that it hides your Clever Alchemist. So I've got Clever Alchemist, which makes my arms orange here. Let's see, can we find it? I don't know, I'm blind. Anyways, I have Clever Alchemist up, there it is. It's on my arms, and it's hidden by, by Vadashran. Oh. So that's really nice. You're glowing orange all over the place, and people don't notice as much when your Clever Alchemist is up. Which means you can better take advantage of, I don't know, their ignorance. And it's way easier to get Clever Alchemist bursts off on good players who are looking for orange arms. Now they can't find them as easily because you're glowing orange all the time because you've got a Vadashran Maul. And this thing is just up all the time, right? So sometimes I won't even use it on purpose, partially for the increased damage and partially to hide Clever Alchemist. So that's kind of fun. But again, a lot of people don't like Clever Alchemist. Fair enough. What do you do? Well, I really like Venomous Smite still. Venomous Smite is still a really good set. The Lines of Weapon critical, not the end of the world. But this also has obviously pretty great synergy with Morag Tong. So what you can do is run Venomous on your back bar instead of Clever Alchemist, and then run Morag Tong on your body, right? And then you can run the Heavy Gaze of Sithis and then a Heavy Dama House, and those are your two heavy pieces, and you're good to go on having two heavy. Again, in case you're new around here, I always recommend, if you're running solo Stamina Nightblade, I always recommend having two pieces of heavy on because of the way that it impacts your Shadow Barrier passive. It means that the duration of your Major Resolve, sorry, I had to read for that because the resolve word was escaping me. Anyways, it increases the duration of your Major Resolve from 6 seconds to 9 seconds, and that's a really big difference. It gives you bigger windows of having your full defense up, and it means that you have bigger attack windows where you're not using surprise attack, because surprise attack refreshes it, so it kind of makes you don't have to have a window of attack when you're using surprise attack and spamming that. But anyways, especially when you're on defense, it gives you a bigger window of time between having to use Shadow Image and Shadowy Disguise, which are your two defensive shadow abilities that refresh this. And so 2 pieces of heavy armor is always my preferred choice. You also don't lose out on any health from the Undaunted passive. You're missing out on 2% stamina and 2% magicka in exchange for 2 seconds of, well, 3 seconds of Major Resolve uptime. And there's just no question to me at all, on top of the extra resistance you get, which is more valuable than ever. This is just the way to go. So wear 2 heavy pieces. And if you want to run Venomous Smite back bar, then I would run it with Heavy Gaze of Sithis and Heavy Dama House. Or, again, if you don't want to use Gaze of Sithis, you could run 2 Heavy Balorg, and that's totally fine too. Then having Venomous Smite on the back bar is going to do a ton of damage, and it's actually really silly how much damage we do already, even without that. So let me talk about abilities here real quick, and some of the things I've changed. obviously, since I'm using Morag Tong, I'm looking to have the maximum poison damage possible. You don't necessarily need to do this, and I'm still on the fence about a few of these abilities, but I'll talk to you about the changes. Things I haven't changed. Still using Camo Hunter. This is a passive. I don't ever press this button. I just use it to have Major Savagery, because Major Savagery is very good. Relentless Focus is a no contest. You have to have this. This is your big fat burst ability, and it is poison or disease damage. This is disease damage, and so it is affected by Morag Tong. So not only do you get a really thick tooltip on this when you've got your Major Brutality and Clever Alchemist, like the tooltip on this gets pretty crazy, but they're also going to take 10% more damage from it because it's a disease ability. Relentless or Rally, this is your main heal, so also your main source of Major Brutality. You need this. Surprise Attack, your bread and butter. It is physical damage, so it does not benefit from Morag Tong, but who cares? It's really good, and it stuns, so it's like my only stun besides full in-cap, which is the most dodgeable ability in the entire game. Yeah, Surprise Attack, still worth having, obviously. This is the one I'm kind of unsure about. Killer's Blade is good, and I do like it, and because we have so much damage this patch, I don't know. So this is where I'm torn. Executioner is still a fantastic execute because we have so much just raw damage. But this is a better ability with better passives. It gives you a tiny bit of extra crit chance. It heals you when you kill somebody. It does very similar damage. It does more damage at 25% health, but you can't execute as early, which you really can do a lot with Executioner. And so I kind of go back and forth. So it's between Killer's Blade, which is in the Assassination tree, and it's between in two-handed Executioner. I'm going with Killer's Blade because I like how it looks, I like how it sounds, I like that it's a Nightblade ability, I like that it has better passives than Executioner, which has no passives. Here you get to benefit from all the Assassination passives that go up because you have another Assassination ability on your bar, and the little heal is nice too. So, well, and it obviously, the main thing is that it does disease damage. So it's going to do 10% more damage. Well, they're going to take 10% more damage from it. So I've been using this and I like it. I like it. I miss Executioner sometimes, but play around with it, see what you like. Incapacitating Strike. This is a love-hate relationship for me. I guess I'm never going to stop using it because I'm still using it. And I don't know. I don't know what to say about this. Oh my gosh. I just want to love this ability so much, but there's so much I hate about it. Mainly that it's not cancelable, and that kind of makes it trash against anyone who's really good. Because they're just going to dodge it. Like, it's so easy to dodge, it's stupid. But when it's at full power with 120 ult or more, it does a stun. Of course, it has like a longer cast time, and it's the most obvious incoming stun of all time. But sometimes you can be tricky and sneaky and go around a corner and hit someone with this. And what's really good about it is that it does good damage. It gives you Reeve, so you get a little bit more sustain, which is fine, I guess. And then the big deal is that it causes the enemy you hit to take 20% more damage from all your attacks. So they're taking 20% more damage from this, then they're taking 10% more damage from Morag Tong, and then you hit them with the fattest Relentless of their entire life, and they're dead, right? And if they're not dead, they're probably under 25% health, and then you can get you like, oh my gosh. Then you just hit them with the Killer's Blade, and then they're done. That's the official sound, by the way. On my back bar, Shadowy Disguise. More important to be running this than ever. I always run Shadowy Disguise, the Invis Cloak, when I'm 1vxing, because it scales better with the number of people attacking you. You know, if you've got one guy attacking you, the other morph of this Dark Cloak is really good. If you've got 8 guys attacking you, the best way is to not take any damage by hiding from them. And it's also a really good source of sustain, oddly enough, stamina sustain, because you can cast this and sit in it for 3 seconds and get basically a free tick of stamina recovery. So that's not bad. Leeching Strikes. I don't know if I need this. I do really like it, though. It's a great source of healing when I'm on offense. You do notice the healing. 1,500 health every attack, or every light attack is pretty big. It's like, it ends up being more like 750, obviously. But it's good. And the stamina recovery is really nice too. And it's the only way that I can recover stamina while I'm sprinting away from people, because it's essentially giving me stamina recovery from the ticks that it's incurring, and not from my actual stamina recovery. So I can sprint, cloak, hit this, and I get a little burst of stamina back. I do like that. I'm using Shadow Image still, because Shadow Image is epic, and I love it. This does mean, as many people are going to notice, that I don't use Major Evasion. Why don't you use Major Evasion when you're talking about getting bombed all the time? Just because I love these abilities more, and I feel like I don't die very much, and so it doesn't matter. I've been tanky in other ways. Major Evasion is great. If you really want to run Major Evasion, please do it. Don't argue with me about it. Just go. Just be free. But I'm not going to use it, and I'm not complaining. I don't feel like I need Major Evasion to survive. I don't feel like anybody really does. And I don't feel like the opportunity cost of being tanky in other ways is coming at some huge expense, because Shadow Image is way cooler, and it gives me a different kind of defense. I guess, the thing to do would be to switch Leeching Strikes for Shuffle or something like that. That would be totally fine. But I don't think I like that. I try it. I try it every patch. Trust me, I do. But it's just not my flavor. I prefer Leeching Strikes. It allows me to be more aggressive. It's a good heal. It's good sustain. I can stay in the fight longer. I don't get bursted down much anyways. If I was dying a lot in a setup that I really liked, then I'd probably try switching this to Shuffle for a longer period of time. But as it stands now, I just don't feel I need it, and so I don't use it. This is a big change for me here. I usually use the other morph of this ability, Venom Arrow, and I use it because it costs less and does more. It does more. It has more utility, right? This has never been a big damage ability for me. It's always been all about the utility of it as a ranged bash. But now that I'm using Morag Tong, and because my execute is a little bit weaker sauce, because it has a lower execute threshold, using Poison Injection to get even more execute damage has been really nice and a lot of fun. So this with Morag Tong is insane ranged pressure. Like, people just melt. You Poison Inject spam them with Morag Tong, and I also threw a poison, like a double dot poison on my back bar. It's so silly. It's so silly how much damage it does, and I'm getting a huge kick out of it. And so I am running this for now. Another really cool option is, instead of using the Vadashran Maul, you could put Clever Alchemist, or whatever other set you're using, on the front bar, and then on the back bar, you could run the Black Rose Prison bow. And then instead of running Poison Injection, you'd run Bombard or whatever from the bow line that goes to the Black Rose Prison bow. Scatter Shot morphs. So it would be either Magnum Shot or Draining Shot. And you'd get not Bombard. Is it Bombard? I don't remember which it... No, it's Scatter Shot. Black Rose Prison. Anyways, you'd use whatever ability goes with the Black Rose Prison bow. I don't know why I can't remember it, but it doesn't really matter. It's a crazy fat poison dot. Because Morag Tong technically says abilities, I don't know if it would count. But if it does count, because I haven't tested it, this is untested information. If it does count, it'd be a crazy, crazy poison dot that you could use instead of Poison Injection. And you get a little bit of utility out of it, because these are both pretty high utility skills. Kind of a fun idea. Vigor is a no-brainer. This is my main heal, and it's everybody's main heal. If you're stamina, you have Vigor on your bar. That's kind of the rule. There's some people that break it, but those are exceptions to the rule, okay? This is the rule. Everything else are exceptions to the rule. If you're new to the game, you might not be using Vigor. Please try Vigor, and then come back and thank me later. Toxic Barrage. This is an ability I always thought was Zergling trash, and I kind of still do. It's not that great, but... Okay, I just said it's not that great, but it's insane. When this is all buffed up, I calculated the damage added to it, and it's something stupid like with poison injection and this on a target, it's like a 150k tooltip total, and part of it is a dot. So you start by doing the 60k tooltip that you see there, the 59k. Obviously, this is way below what the tooltip actually is, because I'll have whatever the extra. The extra this, the extra that, the this. Oh yeah, we'll do one of these. And now the tooltip is something more like 80k. Right, so you've got your 80k tooltip and then a 40k dot. And the dot is just, that's so big. That is so big. And then you've got poison injection, so they're taking like execute dot damage. And it's absurd. It's so funny. And even if they survive it, what they'll often do is they'll pop their vigor, they'll pop their potion, they'll pop their rally, and they'll still be at half health by the end of this thing and taking a dot for another 4 seconds. It's such a huge window to finish somebody off or kill someone who's tanky. And I thought it's so funny using it that I've just been using it all patch. And I recommend you try it out. Again, like I said, if you feel that tankiness is a problem. Oh, also this with Venomous Smite and Poison Injection. Oh, the amount of poison damage. Dude, put this on a werewolf and it's the end of their whole career. It's so funny. So this has been my favorite part of the patch, is toxic barraging people like a Zergling. But then they die so fast that it's like, you know, what are you going to say? I don't know. It's stupid. So that's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's what I'm using for abilities, right? There are other options, but I think this is a really solid setup and I'm having a lot of fun running it. And so from there, do as you will. Other things I'm doing that are important to note. I guess this is, everyone asked about attributes for some reason. Doesn't really matter. You could do 64 points into stamina. My health is absolutely overkill. 35k feels overkill. It could be 33k and I'd be fine. I might die a little bit more, but like, I don't know, not significantly. So you could do 64 damage or 64 stam. If my health hadn't already been 14 before this patch, I wouldn't have taken out 14 to put into it, out of stamina into this. This is just what it was. And I also am not going to put it back because it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's just not, it's not that important. But if you're dying more, maybe more health. And if you're not dying ever, maybe more stamina, right? I don't know. There you go. I'm using the Serpent Mundus. That gets my stamina recovery to a pretty respectable place. I never track my stamina recovery with potion, but you can see it's 2397, which is very high, very comfortable. I like that a lot, especially since I have an 8% cost increase. I think this is juicy. My magical recovery is crap, but you know what's not crap is my max magicka. Max magicka is, it's like 17k. When it's tracking the siphoning ability correctly. Bet you anything, yeah, 17.4. It thinks the siphoning ability is on my front bar. It's not, but whatever. The longest known glitch in the game that hasn't been changed. That might not be true. Anyways, I've got a ton of max magicka, so my magical recovery isn't as important because I have so much that I can use quite a bit before I'm running low, and then, you know, I'm usually doing stamina things, giving it plenty of time to recover, or using a potion and just popping it all the way back up to the top. So that's pretty good. A lot of people ask me what's the right amount of penetration to have. I don't think it matters that. Penetration is the last thing I track of all time. Between 8 and 15k. That's kind of, it's the last thing I track. Damage is more important. Crit chance is more important, and this is pretty low crit chance overall, but it's enough. And then when I hit something, it gets higher, right? Because of assassination passives. So like when I actually hit something, it goes up to 40%. So it's at 40% for most of the fight. That's just fine. Physical pen, there it is. Now it's coming alive. Now it's at 11k, where it should be. So 40% crit chance, pretty comfortable. Weapon damage, sitting at base around 4k is lovely before Clever Alchemist or anything. If you just hit Major Brutality and you've got like 4.5 or higher, that's sort of the goal. One way I hit that is by having Infused weapon damage on everything. And then the way I hit my max stats is by having tri-stat glyphs on everything. I know they're expensive. I'm sorry. It's just too good not to use. If you're playing solo, use tri-stat glyphs. They're expensive, they're pricey, but don't spend gold on them. Just go grind them out in IC. You can PvP in order to get your better PvP gear, which really, I mean, it's the same gear. You just put, instead of stamina glyphs, you just put triglyphs on it, and it's better instantly. So there you go. You're welcome. Don't spend gold on it. Just go buy it. Unless you're buying it from me. If you want to buy it from me, I'll sell them to you for a lot of money. That's like my main source of income at this point. Sorry. For food, for Mundus using the Serpent, we already talked about that. For food, I'm using Artaeum Takeaway Broth. I know, I don't care about health recovery, but it's still awesome food. It's still the most stat-dense food. It's giving me a ton of health. It's giving me enough stamina recovery. It's giving me max stamina. There's not really a better option. It's also crazy expensive, so much so that even having it active while I shoot a video is painful. Like, if it's up, I'm in Cyrodiil. If it's down, that's when I do all of my like character maintenance stuff. I do writs and whatever. I never do writs with food up because it just costs way too much. So yeah, Artaeum is still the way to go. And so that's what I'm using. You could use a different food that's cheaper, but I can't really vouch for any of them in the same way that I can vouch for Artaeum. So that's what I'm using. Let's talk about CP. I've basically changed nothing at all. We won't even talk about the green tree. I'll just show it to you, I guess, so that you can see it. Steve's Blessing, Master Gatherer, Plentiful Harvest, Liquid. Efficiency. I almost said efficacy. Gosh. For damage, this is my new damage setup now that they've nerfed all of the trees. I'm using Resilient still. 660 crit resist is still epic. Backstabber, Fighting Finesse, and Deadly Aim here. Yeah, that's the way to go. This is the tree that I changed stuff around on. I'm no longer using the health recovery one, Strategic Reserve, because I'm not using health recovery because it got cut in half, and then I'm a stage 3 vampire, so that's stupid. Instead, I'm using Slippery. I don't really care about the automatic break free. Well, that's not true. I don't care about the automatic part. I care about the no cost part. A no cost break free is a lot of sustain. Since I'm a vampire, sustain is something that's on my mind, and this is a great way to get it off of my mind by giving me free break frees every 21 seconds. Huge source of sustain. Then I'm using Boundless Vitality for all the more health. Rejuvenation, still good even though I don't care about the health recovery. And Juggernaut. Then everything else is, kind of filler stuff. So that's that. Was there anything else that I had on my list of things to go through? I don't think so. I'm a Wood Elf. I still think Wood Elf is the best. Maybe now that we have so much base weapon damage, Khajiit, yes, here it comes. Khajiit might be better than the max damage races. It could be competing with Dark Elf. I'm not so sure though, but I haven't tested it. In the past, I had tested Dark Elf versus Khajiit, and Dark Elf was just better, like basically no matter what build you were using. Especially since health recovery is total trash now. Khajiit feels like it's missing a lot of stats. You get that 10% crit damage. That's not so bad. It might be better than 256 damage that you get from damage races, but it's really all those other passives that make it so much worse than other races. In any case, that's an argument for other people, because Wood Elf is the best no matter what. Some people might disagree with that, and that's totally fine. I feel like it is nice that Wood Elf isn't so blatantly dominant, because some people don't want to play a Wood Elf, and I understand that, because I don't want to play a Khajiit or a Dark Elf or anything else. I want to play Wood Elf. I'm glad it's number 1. I don't want it to be number 2. But it's nice that people that don't share that opinion can play whatever they want without it being such a huge detriment. Increased stealth detection radius is more useful than you'd think, but it doesn't really matter. If they took this out, I wouldn't care. It wouldn't make a difference. But it's surprisingly useful. But what really matters here is the increased movement speed 5% at all times. That's really strong, especially combined with Cloak, because you're moving 5% faster in Cloak. And that's something that you don't get from increased sprint speed, for example, because you can't sprint in Cloak. Physical spell pen, dude, free physical and spell pen, that's super nice. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'll take all the physical pen I can get for free, and, you know, that's good. Stamina recovery, 258. This is a good way to get stamina recovery because you don't want to get it from your jewelry if you can help it, because jewelry is going to give you more weapon damage. Obviously, there's the Mundus stone. The Mundus stone is the best way to get your stamina recovery because it's just more efficient than the damage Mundus is. So if I was looking to get more damage, it might be better to switch to a dark elf and use the Serpent rather than be a wood elf and use the warrior. I haven't done the exact math on that, but they're pretty comparable. In any case, I do want this stamina recovery, and so having it as part of my race is pretty nice. Resist affliction, poison, and disease damage is huge this patch, especially now that more people are going to be using Morag Tong. More people are using Morag Tong in general. It's a pretty popular set right now overall, and I'm seeing it pop up all over the place, and I think it's a good thing because it's a good set. But having extra poison and disease resistance is super nice, and then 2k max stam is pretty cool too. Actually, that's the main thing. What am I talking about? 2k max stam is super good. The disease and poison resistance is really, really nice icing. Maybe like the best icing. You know what? They're probably equally important. It doesn't matter. It's a great race. It's got everything you need. It doesn't have anything that you don't need at all, and it's the way to go. So you can use other races. The next best is probably going to be Dark Elf, then maybe Khajiit, then Orc, then Nord, then Redguard. Am I missing any stamina races? I don't think so. That's the order that I'd rank them. And that's it. All right. Okay. That's the video. I hope you have enjoyed. I hope this was educational and that you're a better person for having visited. If you watched all the way to the end, I do appreciate that. That's pretty cool. So thank you. Maybe subscribe. I release videos every year, and so I hope to catch you in the next one.